Hey, good morning. Scott Luton, Greg White here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Gregory, how we doing?
Doing great here on the 5th of July, which feels distinctly different than the 4th of July. It also feels like it's been a minute since we've been on the air, right?
Well, we had a wonderful time unplugging a bit down in Ponte Vedra, Florida last week after a quick drive back to knock out the buzz, which we had a great time, right?
Yeah. Tell them
Um,
how the sausage is made there.
well, hey, the rental Wi-Fi was not cooperating. So it was good to get back and see the pups, and knock out a great conversation with you as always on the buzz. But today, Greg, we're fast forwarding. Vacation time's over. Florida's over. Today it's back to doing the work. We're talking
Yep.
supply chain trends to keep your eye on, all with a very special guest, Tonya Jackson from Lexmark. Are you geared up for this, Greg?
I am. I'm pretty excited. We're coming back with a flurry, right? Bringing in a fantastic practitioner, right? Somebody who's making things happen in supply
That's right.
chain.
One of our favorites, a repeat guest. We're also going to touch on, of course, what she and the supply chain and her team's doing over at Lexmark, but we're also going to touch on the awards. Tonya, we were very grateful to have her serve as an executive judge on the
Right.
2022 Supply Chain and Procurement Awards. So all of that, plus some of the trends that you don't want to take your finger off the pulse of. So, and Greg, as always, we invite all the folks in the cheap seats and in the skyboxes, you name it, to bring their voice and perspective today, right?
Yeah, I wonder if everyone around the world knows what nosebleed seats means. You just made me think of that. I'd love to get everybody's input on that.
That's
'Cause
right.
I don't know if when you were a kid, but I got a very keen awareness of what the nosebleed seats were and why they were called that. They are up there.
Hey,
Up
it's the
there.
only tickets we could afford. I don't know about y'all, Greg.
Yeah. $2, man. $2 to
That's
go to a
right.
ball game. Can you believe that?
It was either a row or two down with no popcorn and a drink, or you're sitting sitting on the top row of the whole stadium. But that's okay. Fond memories. Fond memories.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Greg, we're going to say hello to a few folks momentarily. Again, folks, stick around. We got Tonya Jackson from Lexmark today, one of our favorites. But in the meantime, we do want to make one quick announcement. We want to invite folks to this ongoing initiative, Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine. Our friends at Vector Global Logistics are leading this pro bono work. Greg, as we know, I think 4 or 5, I'm not sure what the latest count is, but 4 or 5 containers full of humanitarian aid for vetted needs have already made it across the Atlantic to Poland and Ukraine and elsewhere. And it depends on people across the supply chain world that want to plug in on these working sessions, figure out how they can help, and then deeds, not words, taking action, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's been a manifest effort by the folks at Vector. Enrique and Maureen and their team have really, really stepped up. And we even got a little bit of video of the containers being loaded. I think it's approaching 10, Scott.
Wow.
I think it's up. Well, not all of them have landed,
Right.
to your point, but that's how many are headed that way. So that is fantastic. That's a lot of help from a lot of people around the world to make that happen.
Right. Excellent point, Greg. Appreciate that update. And by the way, folks, these are working sessions. The next one's July 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. There's no need. They're not going to twist your arms off to give or to work or to volunteer or whatever. If you want to come and just sit in and listen to the conversation from folks around the globe that have kindred spirits to help folks in need, hey, feel free to do that. We've got a link in the comments, and we'd invite y'all to join in the conversation.
No doubt.
Okay. So talk about Logistics with Purpose, which is, of course, the podcast series that Enrique and Vector and the team here host at Supply Chain Now. That is Logistics with Purpose for sure.
Indeed.
Let's say hello to a few folks. Josh Goody from our he's basically our Seattle correspondent these days.
Yeah, and wait till you see, you might have to scroll down, but wait till you see his weather report. You're going to be jealous.
Good morning from 61
and sunny.
In Seattle. Great to see you, Josh.
Scott, I woke up this morning 6:30 this morning. Looked at the temperature before I went outside. Said 83, feels like 92 at 6:30 this morning.
Man,
this is
that
a good
is
day to
warm.
drink coffee inside. Yeah.
AC on full blast. Ahmad is tuned in via LinkedIn. Hey, Ahmad, let us know where in the world you are tuned in from. We love connecting those dots if we can. Rahul, same for you. Let us know where you're tuned in from via LinkedIn. Great to see you here. Muhammad, great to see you here via LinkedIn. Welcome. Looking forward to your perspective. Let us know where you are tuned in from. Shelly Phillips is back, Greg. Shelly
There we
really
go.
brought it a live stream or two ago, if you recall.
Yeah, and she's probably feeling temperatures much more like we are than Josh, I'm guessing. So,
probably so.
Although you never know. Some days it's 90 and some days it's 50 and there in Colorado. So,
well, you beat me to it. Shelly says, good morning from the foothills of Colorado. So that paints a nice picture. Ahmad asking you shall receive is tuned in
all
from
right.
Egypt via LinkedIn. Hey, the dog, the Diesel, your pick of all the nicknames, Clay Phillips from Maggie Valley today via LinkedIn. How about that?
Right.
Greg?
We need a weather report from there. I bet it's at least cooler there.
That's right.
And also a golf score from this weekend, Clay.
All right, Clay, you're on the hook, man. Catherine, of course, part of our production team here. Big thanks to what Catherine and Chantel and Amanda do for us. So great to see you. Hey, Mark Preston is back. The legendary Mark Preston, Greg. Many folks call Mark the lean guru, the Southern Sensei, some of his nicknames. Mark, hope this finds you well. Congrats. I think, Greg, I want to say Mark joined the Kohler organization a few months back. So, gosh,
it seems like I saw something there. Was that right, Kohler?
Mark, let us know. I might be tracking you wrong, but great to hope you and the family are doing well.
Hope everything's good. I do need to talk to you about a couple of new faucets.
All right. Noor, tuned in from Dubai via LinkedIn. Great to see you here today.
Okay. So there's going to challenge us for heat right there. Be interested to hear what the report is.
But probably, there. Greg,
it's sunny.
Yes, sunny, but a bit more of a dry heat, I would imagine, at least when I was there, it was.
Like a blast furnace.
Right. Hugo is tuned in from Guadalajara, 77 degrees.
Beautiful. Say hello to our business associate, Joshua, while you're down there.
Yeah, you got to. All right. So I wish we could hit everybody here. I'm going to shoot through some of these. Folks, we want to hear your comments throughout the session here today. We're about to bring in our special guest. Hey, Ron Shepard, online from the great city of Aiken, South Carolina, trade compliance guru. Great to see you, Ron. Let's see. Aniela. Please let me know. Make sure we get it right. I tried. I might be 0 for 2 there, but from Hampshire, UK. Gene Pledger, hello from what feels like equatorial Alabama. So it's hot. It is hot there in Alabama.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
Good to see you, Gene. Hello, Joey from sunny Minnesota. Yes, Mark confirmed. He just joined Kohler. Great to see you.
Outstanding.
Congrats. We got to celebrate it. Okay, one final comment that we're going to bring on our guest here. Clay says, one figure is 100 plus. One figure is 75. I'll let you guys guess which is temp and which is score.
We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Clay.
That's right.
Good game. Yeah. Round to go.
Well, hey, Clay, hope you have a lot of fun with the family there in Maggie Valley. Okay, so Greg, I am stoked about our guest here today. I've had a chance to not only have a variety of conversations with Tonya Jackson, but we also did a one-on-one interview probably about 2 months ago or so. And I left that interview as a recorded interview, and I'm like, you know what? Our audience is going to love Tonya. We got to figure out if we can bring her on live here at some point. And today we have Tonya Jackson live. So I want to welcome in, folks. You are going to get as big of a kick as I did about this. Tonya Jackson, Senior Vice President and Chief Delivery Officer with Lexmark. Hey, Tonya, how you doing?
I am doing well. How are you? How are you both?
Doing
wonderful. Great. Thank you. Good to have you back.
Thank you. I appreciate all the dialogue about the temperature. It's pretty hot here too. Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
It's hot.
You're supposed to be able to escape that in Kentucky, but yeah, not this
90,
summer.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. And the day after a holiday, lots of last minute problem solving. Murphy's Law is still alive and well in the wide world of technology, right?
Right. Yes, it went right down to the wire here. Yep. But we had great support. My little friend, one of my best friends over here, Emily, helped me out here. So
That's right.
We're good.
Very good.
Big shout out to Emily and the whole team there. But great to see you again. And as I was sharing, as we were introducing you, man, we are tickled to have you here live with. You saw some of the folks from really around the globe. They're going to really enjoy your perspective. But before we get into Tonya Jackson, the senior practitioner, I want to get into a little bit of food, Greg. It is National.
We're coming off a holiday weekend. So
That's right. I'm still trying to get rid of all the extra food we had from the holidays. But it's National Apple Turnover Day. So Tonya and Greg, and Greg, I'm gonna get your take here, but I'm gonna start with Tonya. So Tonya, did you grow up eating apple turnovers in Wide Awake, Wilson, North Carolina? And if it wasn't your go-to, if apple turnovers weren't your go-to dessert, what was one of your family's favorite go-to desserts?
Oh, I'm glad you remember Wide Awake Wilson. I'm actually going to send you a newspaper article. Name it has up there Wide Awake Wilson.
Okay.
So yeah, I did grow up eating apple turnovers, but I'm much more partial to peaches, honestly.
Ooh.
So it would be like peach cobbler, peach pie, those kinds of things.
Oh man,
but
you and Scott must have been separated at birth.
Well, we were on our last interview thinking that we were related at some point. We had so many things in common. But yeah, but for sure, apple turnover is good. But I am more partial. It's peach season right now. So some of mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now one quick comment. Did y'all know, at least as of a couple years ago, that even though Georgia is known as the peach state, South Carolina actually produces more peaches than Georgia? Little did you know.
Funny how often you get stopped in a South Carolina parking lot when you have Georgia tags for people to tell you that.
Yeah, I was going to say you definitely know Scott's from South Carolina with that bit of trivia.
Yeah.
Not just everybody knows that. The South Carolina people know that, but it's true. That is true. South Carolina produces more.
One quick follow up then. So Pete, you mentioned peach cobbler. That is one of our favorites around here. Mm-hmm. So before we get Greg's take, Tonya, do you always have a scoop of ice cream with your peach cobbler or no ice cream?
Usually no ice cream, but I'm fine with ice cream. But the cobbler itself I'm good just with the cobbler. But I'll be happy to take the ice cream as well. But I'm good.
All right.
Greg, can I ask just one more question,
please?
Scott? Your cobbler, is it crumbly top or is it more like pie top, as you know it?
Crumbly top.
Okay. Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Does that pass? Okay, good answer.
Well, I was just curious because, I thought there was only one way to make it. And I'm from the Midwest. You come to the South and there's like all kinds of tops that you can have, right? So but I was brought up with a crumbly top too, Tonya. So,
yeah, I like the crumbly top.
Yeah.
Crumbly
what about
top.
You, Scott?
Oh, I've probably had it a number of different ways. I like the corner section where you get a little more crunch. Mm-hmm. But I've got to have ice cream because for me it's a contrast. It adds that creamery. Anytime you add that creamy element with the crunch and it tastes delicious. Oh goodness gracious! I could probably eat a whole cobbler, but we got to save that for another day. Hey, really quick, before we dive into things forthrightly, I want to share a couple quick comments here. Josh says, shout out to Dubai, who we had Noor from Dubai. He says, shout out to Dubai for producing plastics used for medical devices. Saved my job more than on one occasion the last couple of years.
That's interesting.
That? Yeah.
The stories. The stories that you're going to have to share with us, Josh. Aniela, thank you for the guidance. We'd like to get everybody's names right. So Aniela, appreciate that feedback. Let's see here. Josh also says Dutch oven cooked apple cobbler.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds delicious.
That's old school, man.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
So by the way, really quick, Old School Soul Food is a channel I've been following this summer on YouTube. and the Chef Jeff is his name. He's from the Houston area, and he offers up all the types of dishes we probably grew up with, at least, especially me and Tonya. So y'all got to check that out. And also, one quick shout out before I turn over to Greg here. We move forward, Tonya. Good morning, Dr. Rhonda Papenza Zimmerman.
Yeah, and it is morning for everyone who wonders. It is morning where she is. So she is
right.
Sunny, and I don't even want to know the temperature in Phoenix.
Well, hey, quick shout out. So Dr. Rhonda, even though we're still making everything official, we're going to be emceeing an upcoming virtual session called Veterans in Logistics, right? We're going to be tackling a lot of different veteran-related issues, from transition to kind of trends in supply chain to kind of inform the veteran community. We're also going to be touching on mental wellness and health, which is important for everybody. And Rhonda has volunteered. We're still nailing everything down, but Rhonda has volunteered. That's part of her expertise, to share some of her knowledge on that late July event. So thank you, Rhonda. I'll be back in touch soon. Okay, so Greg, Tonya Jackson here with Lexmark.
It's like doing a business call in the middle of the show. Do you see how he did that time?
I did. Just very smooth.
It's a very two-way conversation here, Tonya. So if you ever need anything from us, just jump in the stream.
I'll just stop the thing, and we'll just take a little call.
That's right.
No problem. No problem. It's literally how supply chain works anyway.
Yeah.
So true.
Just go with it. Yep.
Always on. Yeah.
So Greg, where are we starting with the one and only Tonya Jackson here?
I can't believe I'm even going to ask this question. So I want to precursor this with, I know the answer. It's just in case any of you out there don't know the answer. We want everybody to have a good frame of reference. So Tonya, if you could tell us a little bit about Lexmark and what you do, right? What your role there is.
Okay, sure thing. We'll start there. I'll take Lexmark first. So we're a global leader in imaging and document services. Our customers are all over the world. We have devices deployed in about 170 countries. We have about 6.5 million units in the hands of our customers, and about 1 million under managed services under a single global system. So many of you know about managed print services over the years, and so we deploy, our imaging devices are IoT and cloud enabled, and we actually use some of that IoT technology and some of the digital transformation that we are piloting in supply chain and operations. So a portion of our business also is looking at taking that same technology that we use for printers, where we work with our customers, and seeing how we can manage other devices in there to help them with their business. So not just managed print, but managed services also to expand our business. And then we also have some really cool technology in imaging, and we have a group now that's looking at how to take that technology and use it in other places, such as our scanning technology, our fusing technology, because we heat cool so fast, those kinds of things. So a lot going on at Lexmark, but the main thing is, serving our customers and making sure that they can have print for their mission critical services and not worry about it. Make sure that the printer works, that it's serviced, and that we make sure that hospitals and manufacturing sites and anywhere in healthcare that people are up and running so they can serve their customers. That's
I think it'll be a
Lexmark.
fantastic day. I'm curious, Tonya. It'll be a fantastic day. Maybe you can do this. I wouldn't be surprised at all when you can address probably the two most common requests around your devices, which is clearing paper jams and and refilling toner. Can you do any of that remotely yet?
Yeah, well, clearing. Interesting you say that. So as part of managing devices remotely is that we do monitor it so that we could look at error codes and look at how the printer is, the health of the printer, and we can try to intervene before you get to any kind of serious breakage and those kinds of things. And toner, or did you say toner, or I'm not sure which you use?
Yeah, toner.
Some people say ink, but okay.
Yeah,
so
I might have seen.
You might have, but so With toner, it's a matter of sensing when it's low, right? So you don't want to
Right.
be out. We don't want you to be out. So it's a matter of having the alerts on the out panel to make sure that people know you're low in this color. You can go ahead and order, and we can get you replenished. And that is also a managed print service as well. But if you don't have managed print, you have those you have those alerts on the device.
That's so I'm seriously so practical, and I love the preemptive capability there. That's important, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. People just want devices to work, and
they're confusing enough for some people.
They
like
are not. We're working on that, keeping it simple.
I never cease to be amazed at people who can make these things operate like they do it just like it's second nature. For me, I just look at that keyboard and I go completely blank and start looking for talented people that can actually do it.
So,
I guess you just walk around waiting for somebody to come up.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Just look pathetic.
That's right. So, Tonya, so I appreciate you kind of giving us the in a nutshell version of Lexmark, where you've been and what you do now, and some of the innovative things you're working on.
Yeah, right.
As Chief Delivery Officer, titles can be interesting things. Are you essentially, the beautiful development here in recent years is the rise of the CSCO, the Chief Supply Chain Officer.
Right.
Is that essentially your role there at Lexmark?
Yeah, it's a great question, Scott. So we have a very unique organization, and I think it is it's very it's kind of the way everybody needs to operate in the future, where it's actually one organization or not. But so my former title was Chief Supply Chain Officer, and we reorganized maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, when we wanted to focus on the core imaging part of the business, and as well as to grow in our adjacencies. And so we combined the research and development team, the supply chain team, and our service delivery team into one organization. And so we formed. We don't benchmark well against other companies because not many people have this setup. But so between all of us, we took the name of the product delivery organization. And the cool thing about it, which is why I said it's forward thinking, is we talk a lot about supply chain agility, resilience, and all these kinds of things. But if you can work with product development really closely, you solve a lot of the agility problems that you may have. That it's in the top of their mind, top of the operations people's mind. So it's that constant collaboration and the back and forth. So what we do in our organization is we have what we call the end-to-end, right? So we have the design, the sourcing, planning, manufacturing, distribution, logistics, service techs, reverse logistics. We get it back, we remanufacture, we harvest for recycling. So if there's a problem with if there's a problem with any part of the product that we deliver to our customers, it's all right here. And we work together on those trade-offs and really try to get it right on the front end. Now, products that are already down the pipe, at that point, you're doing what you can to, do your engineering changes and those types of things. But we really have an opportunity to understand each other's pain points.
Yeah.
Being in the same organization, because it's a little difficult if you're in different organizations. Everybody's doing the right things. I like to say everybody's making the right choices, but it's really hard. And it's not because people don't want to, but it's hard to see the impact either way. It's hard to see, as you're going. But if you're all in the same organization, and we mix the organization up, this is key. We didn't just put 3 groups together and say, now we got this group. We blended teams. So we have R&D teams mixed with manufacturing teams and sourcing teams. Everybody is blended together. So it was quite an experiment for us. I think it served us incredibly well during the crisis. And I don't say that like it's over, but during the heat of it, when you're having to, you can't find a component and you work with the engineering team to see what else can be designed, and the engineering team has been fantastic. So yeah, we went from Chief Supply Chain Officer to Product Delivery Officer, but it's a very talented, diverse organization with all kinds of skill sets and some fantastic people.
I love it. And folks, let us know what you think. This highly integrated, unique organization. And by the way, thank you, Andy. Hey, we learn new things about our listeners all the time. He is not a fan of the phrase "very unique." You're either unique or not.
Ah, okay.
I think Andy was responding, as I said, very unique earlier, as we described the Lexmark organization. But Andy, hey,
Oh,
I appreciate
okay.
those preferences. But Greg, let me get.
I thought I said it, so okay.
No, I think that was me. Hey, Greg, weigh in there. I mean, you've also been a senior leader, startup led organizations. The model that Tonya just described there seems pretty powerful in my ears.
It's been a long time coming, and I'm sure it felt like that for you too, Tonya. But I think two things that really jump out at me is one, chief delivery makes so much sense when there's so much digital componentry, so many digital offerings that are either services, no physical, real component to them as such, right? Like we think of when we say supply chain, and the other is the preemptive strike. Here we go again. You guys are trying to get ahead of the game, and I really appreciate that, of involving product design and development, R&D, and that sort of thing into not just supply chain, but integrating them together, because there's so much that you can share between supply chain and product design. Sometimes, in the retail trade, we were really good at it. Sometimes we were not very good at it. Sometimes it's absolutely critical as we think about circularity and sustainability and all of that sort of thing. There's a lot of opportunity to create efficiencies in supply chain and in product design, and it's just great to see the I'm going to use the word, I'm sorry, gang, the synergy between those departments coming together to create something that is so much better for every part of the company. So
yes,
that's powerful stuff.
Yes.
Great to hear it. I mean, it's rare that you even hear about it, right? Much less see it or have a leadership design that is specifically focused on that.
Well, I'm going to break out a phrase we use around here a lot a couple years ago based on a guest appearance. And not that there were silos at Lexmark, but silos exist.
Sure.
I mean, they're in traditional structures, they certainly are. Silo busting. It sounds like you and the rest of the executive team said, you know what? We're not going to do things per usual and have silos and ivory towers. We're going to get the team integrated, holistic, talking. Folks, if they've got ideas and it's outside their functional area, they need to be part of the conversations going on elsewhere. I mean, really, I can really see how that has helped not only during the deepest throes of the pandemic, but moving forward in this era we're all living in.
Yeah, no, I part of it was definitely silo busting. I think another thing that happens, again, not intentionally, but you just don't understand. Like if you're in, so let's say as example, supply chain and R&D design something, and you're sitting there thinking, why it's hard, it's complex. Why I'm going to have to go source this, right? Yep. But when you're integrated together, you certainly want to focus on design for manufacturing, but you also have the opportunity to understand, well, we need this technology. It has to be. Right. You can't just keep doing the same thing. That's not how you advance. The challenge is, I need this new technology. What's the best way that I can design it so that we can source it and so that we can make sure we have continuity of supply? So you start to understand the other person's perspective on both across the board. And you get that for free because you're literally working side by side with someone. It's not a curiosity. It also helps with career development. Maybe you're in one area and you're always curious about what was over there. Well, now you see that up close and you can make a decision on, hey, I would like to go work in that area or not. So there have been lots of benefits. And again, I think the organization was very open to it. I don't mean just management. I mean the team, the whole team. Yeah. It was a little of okay, well, what are we all now come? How are we going to come together? And I think, we're still growing every day, but culturally, I think we're all on the same page and doing a great job.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to the awards.
Yeah.
I also really want to circle back. I want to get to the trends here because that's kind of the center plate of today's discussion. But by the way, Greg, I've been fortunate to talk with Tonya a variety of times. We interviewed on an earlier podcast. Few executives capture this, but the approachability that Tonya Jackson, the down to earth demeanor. I mean, that is an invaluable attribute to have as a leader. And Tonya has got that nailed. And Tonya, the same person you see here live in front of everybody, is the same person you see on a private Zoom as you're planning. And Greg, that is a beautiful thing in my eyes.
I hate to talk about you like you're not here, Tonya, but it's really refreshing. I mean, just how matter of fact, and how just the way, honestly, just the cadence with which you speak tells me that this is just who you are and how you believe and your management philosophy. So, yeah, you couldn't script it better.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
Appreciate that.
All right. So, Tonya, appreciate you sharing what you've shared thus far about your role in the organization and the evolution of the organization and what you do. Let's get into some of these supply chain trends, and oftentimes big picture trends that we've got to keep our eye on, right?
Yep.
Regardless of your role. So we're going to walk through 4. And yes,
Okay.
I'm making that commitment, Greg and Tonya, up front. We're going to walk through
All right.
4.
You're going to have to tell us if we have to go faster, okay?
Right. That's right. So the first one, Tonya, the very first one that you know, as you created this list of 4,
Yep.
what would that be?
You know, the first one, just living what we're living in, is agility and resiliency. And so I'm going to, hopefully we'll get in a dialogue here with people online as well as you all. So you know, the one thing that is not a trend, like I think that it's been a terrible couple of years, you know, from an operating conditions. But what I hear a lot is that supply chains were just built on cost, and therefore that's why they don't have this. I don't believe that. I think everybody was always, I think as difficult as it has been, we wouldn't, we couldn't get through what we got through without some amount of agility and resiliency. Now, was it enough? Obviously not. But I think the things that we can focus on in the future are the same things that we were probably working on. We just have to go intentional. The second sourcing, the diversification, understanding the geopolitical impacts that are going on, you know, around the world, and how that getting ahead of it, keeping it in mind. You can't be too reactive, you know, but you have to be able to say, okay, I have to build some redundancy in the system. And the one thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, we spent a lot of time, and it's in our strategy. And so if anybody from Lexmark is watching this, they're going to say, huh. But it's simplification. So we talk about simplification, right? And typically what we talk about is SKU reduction, or, you know, making things as, you know, looking at processes and taking all the waste out and making things as simplification. But it occurs to me now is that we really should be talking about simplicity, because simplification is changing, is, you know, it's kind of streamlining a process instead of starting at the most simple state.
Maybe.
Yeah, like it's almost like a design thinking, right? So
yeah.
So I think what we will be talking more about, and like I said, it's on our strategy as simplification. But the more I think about it, I think it's more simplicity, because simplification comes afterwards, right? You've done something, and now you want to, you know, you need to go simplify it. So just, and that's a completely different thing. That starts with, you know, talking with marketing, with the customer. You know, it has to be more, you know, holistic approach. And then the other thing I'll point on, and I'll talk about, and I'll let you guys, you know, banter here and see if I'm on track. But it is I think during the crisis, what we learned a lot was risk taking, and you know, looking at some of the things we would never do, or we would not like to do, and we just did it because there were no choices, and things were, and all ideas were welcome. There wasn't a, hey, we've never done it that way, or we did it 10 years ago, we don't want to do it that way. So I think what we have to include in that agility and resilience is to keep the outside in approach, make sure we are not too, you know, we know best kind of thing, because we don't. We learned that, right? And so make sure we have the, you know, outside in approach, and make sure that we are, you know, continue with the speed and urgency. And the most thing that what we talk about a lot is to institutionalize some of the practices that we did because we had to. Let's not go back. Let's make sure they're part of what we do now. So we don't want the weeds to come back in, right? We want to make sure that we go forward from any kind of design, network design, or whatever we do there.
Well said, Greg. I'm gonna get your take in just a moment. I want to take a couple quick comments here. This is from the LinkedIn user. Let's see if Korai Koze from Gartner's with us here today. He says, resilience. Top of mind, yet often challenged by cost, capability, and digital literacy. That's a good phrase. Great to have Scott and Greg educating us and bringing great guests. Hey, Tonya is educating us here today, and she's living it, what she's sharing with us. But Korai, great to have you as always. Love your passion and your expertise and your deeds, not words approach. Greg, the start of our list here, agility and resiliency and simplify. I mean, not simplification, which is comes after you maybe created way too much complexity, but your take on what you heard here from Tonya on number one.
I think simplicity is it's distinctly different from simplification, right? Simplification is we've already got a process we know is broken, and we're going to try, or a design or something like that, but we're going to try and take the waste out of it. So Tonya described that appropriately. Simplicity is starting with a redesign or a brand new design or whatever, and envisioning it another way so that you don't have the waste built in to begin with. Sometimes that's hard and it's almost impossible with the first iteration, but you're at a point now and you have in your power too, Tonya, the ability to impact the design, the execution, and even the physical and electronic delivery of the product. So I think that's a great perspective to have. The other is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, come on.
Tom, no. All right. I don't know how this works. I don't know who gets to speak first.
You're the featured guest here. So.
Yeah, right.
All right. No, the only thing I would add is I'm not saying simple. I am not saying make it simple, because that's not possible all the time, right? And so I'm not want people to think, it's not that simple. I understand that.
Two pieces, snap them together. Right.
That's not the way it works. And you also can't take something that's already in motion and simplify it, right? So it's just as like I said, it's part of our strategy. We got a big bubble simplification, and I was rethinking that, saying, that is necessary. It's just not, it's not sufficient. It's something we need to think about it just a little differently.
Yeah, I think again, it's preemptive rather than responsive to your previous points. I mean, you definitely have that approach of saying, let's rethink something and let's try to prevent issues rather than try to deconstruct something and address the issues. Yeah. I mean, obviously in some cases you'll have to do one or the other, but certainly having that perspective from the very start, and with the organization that you drive, you definitely have the power to be able to do that in your organizations at Lexmark. So, I think the other thing, agility and resiliency, not only cost, right? I think one of the cost is probably the biggest offender in terms of why supply chain is so incredibly fragile. The other is, and I'm going to get some messages from some of my
Andy's coming for you. Andy's
friends.
Coming for you. Right. What you're about to say.
It's going to be. I'm going to get some messages from some of my academic friends here, and that is the foundational principles of supply chain, like the beer game. If anyone is familiar with the beer game and some of the things we talk about when we talk about forecasting, ceteris paribus, all other things being equal, that is the fatal flaw in supply chain philosophy. All things are never equal, right? Everything else doesn't go right. We should never, ever say that in supply chain. If everything else goes right, we're fine, right? Because what we ought to do, and you made this point also, Tonya, is assume, and this was what I was taught that was so counterintuitive and kind of hard to absorb, but has worked well for me, is assume everyone will fail you. And that's probably an extreme position, right? But it does give you the proper mindset to say, okay, we need a plan B, maybe even a plan C or D or whatever. And we need it throughout every stage, every potential fragility in the supply chain. That's how you create both agility, responsiveness instead of reactiveness, and resiliency, which is the opposite, in my opinion, of fragility. So you have to be very aware of the fact that the forecast is just a starting point, kind of like a project plan. And you have to figure out where the project plan is going to fail you and build the ability to either preempt or respond rapidly and effectively to disruption.
Yep.
Very well said.
All right. Disruption in
I'm
the
so
form
glad you said that. I feel stupid saying it. Anyway.
disruption
Uh-oh.
in the form of abnormal anomalies, as Josh says there. Hey, we all have our pet
You just
peeves
like
when it
kicking
comes
yourself in the chin, don't you, Scott?
Julia makes a great point here. Integration is certainly helpful, but thinking of today's supply chain environment, how to track and prevent, she meant to say, supply chain quality failures. That's a great question. Ola Watosin also agrees with her key concern there with those quality.
I think Tonya addressed a lot of that in her previous comments. So I think that's
Agreed.
really, right.
Agreed.
Think about it in a different way.
Now, Abdel Halim agrees. You were just speaking to educators a moment ago. I think he took away that all things being equal prefacing that can so often be out there. So, hey,
Thank you.
Yeah, you didn't alienate all educators out there. So, Abdel Halim.
My phone is telling me a different story, but
okay. His students enjoyed the competition to get the best results of the beer game. Love it. Thanks for being here today. Okay. So I've got 12:42. Of course, we're going to protect Tonya's time. Tonya, we've got give everybody a little sneak peek. Digital transformation, talent, and ESG are 2, 3, and 4. Let's go to digital transformation and get some of your thoughts there, Tonya.
Yeah. Okay. Digital transformation. I think I'm going to tie it back to something Greg said as well. So for us, it was, and it is, and it will be about visibility. It will be about, but some of those systems have always been there, and it's a matter of how fast you add your control tower, you add your visibility upstream with your supply base, because that was the heart of our issue with electronic components. We tier 1 visibility great, tier 2 pretty good, but beyond that, we knew who suppliers were in general, but not the health of those suppliers and who their suppliers were and all of that. So I think building that out is really important. But I think going back to what Greg said, like about forecast, the forecast is going to be whatever the forecast is going to be. But building, using digital tools, whether it's AI, ML, to understand demand, like what is going on somewhere else that you're not seeing. The problem, why you need the end-to-end visibility, upstream, downstream, that's what you can see. That's what you have. What you really want to get to is what else is going on that's going to impact my supply. So whether it's weather, whether it's some kind of, again, a geopolitical thing emerging, some shortage in a completely different industry that will eventually
something grounded.
Something that you're not really even, those things that are out there everywhere, but it's hard to bring them into our system and say, okay, how is this going to affect us? I think that's a real opportunity, because then you're looking at demand, not specific forecasts, right? You're just saying, okay, how does this demand, what's going on with demand in general? And then how can I, tailor what should I be doing from a supply perspective? Yep. So I think for sure visibility is a big deal for us, but I think what we all can do is also think about broader than our space. There's something else that's going on in the world, and how is that going to affect our supply?
All right. So this number 2 on this list of 4 could be a 6-hour mini series, right?
Right. I tried to summarize.
That's a warning for me to keep it short.
Yes, Greg.
What it is.
I got that, Greg. I summarized. See how I did that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I got an easy response to that. What she said. So I mean, I think there is, there are so many dynamics here, and I think the important thing is not to focus on this. This is what this portion of the discussion makes me think about, rather than this particular aspect of it. Is there are so many aspects that are potentially in flux, right? That you do have to plan. And I think if we focus instead of on the problem, we focus on the outcome, whether it's geopolitical or weather, or product shortage or unethical behavior, whatever it is, think about what the outcomes could be to your supply chain and focus on that outcome and provision for that outcome. Not because it's really hard. You'll always be chasing if you try to say, what if Evergreen has another ship get stuck? Right? I mean, or what if Ukraine wins, or what if Russia wins, or what if this goes on for years, whatever. Yep. But if you understand what the outcomes of those events are and focus on, if this outcome occurs, what do we do? Right. I think it, does it simplify, or does it create simplicity in how you address those things? Tonya, I'll leave that to you, but
I'm not sure, Greg, but
me either. But you get it, right? I mean, it does make it like you're chasing fewer data points. Yeah. If you do that.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to get away from predicting the future, because you can't, but you just want to enable it, right? You want to say, okay, if this 5 different scenarios happen, what am I going to do? Because you can't foresee the futures, and we've proven through this that disruption is everything, and it will always be that way.
That's right.
Yeah. So. We've proven that for our entire careers, Tonya. You can't predict the future. That's basically what our career is an affirmation of that.
Unless you're Marty McFly and you head back to whatever year that was and grab the sports book.
So maybe the metaverse can help us with that.
Maybe so. Hey, really quick, Julia makes a great point. Businesses are usually short-term minded, unfortunately, speaking of forecasting. Excellent point there. And here, Olawatosin says, on point, Greg, the business users are never open-minded to come up with serious options, probably. They also don't plan despite several engagements from the procurement team. They're always reactive rather than proactive. So, hey, might be another conversation we had there. I appreciate you sharing.
That sounds like that might be an environmental issue, because whenever I hear never and always, that's usually a cultural issue within that company, because I haven't had that experience. I've had it often or infrequently, but never, and not always.
So there's a nice segue, because of course, when we talk about culture, talent is inseparable, right?
Yeah.
So talent being your number 3 on the list here, Tonya. Yep. Love to get your thoughts on tracking the talent trend.
Sure. So for me, talent is, I'm talking about the entire organization. It's kind of the same. It's a matter of retaining really good people that you have and helping them see opportunity, see what they may want to explore differently. And then for onboarding and new hires is getting them up to speed and running faster, because people will want, I think they want to make contributions and impact much quicker than in the past. So we need a better way of, once people come in, to get them engaged with the right, whether it's training, whether it's whatever, less ad hoc, but more, this is your project, this is who you're going to work with, this is what how we want to get you up and running. And then for many people across, especially supply chain operations, and in my team, because we're integrated very much everybody, the whole burnout thing, I don't have an answer for that, but it has been, the past few years have been really rough. I think somebody in the comments said that somebody helped them keep their job. It's been intense.
Right.
And so we're trying to move people as we can. People have been in, everybody's getting, has some impact in all of this, but people that are really in the eye of the storm, we're trying to rotate them out to, different positions so they can take on other responsibilities, put somebody else in that's ready for, that challenge, so that we're not just wearing people out. But I don't have a great answer for burnout, because it's, like I said, we're getting better at navigating for sure, but it's still a difficult operating environment. So for us, it's about, keeping the team engaged and being honest with what we know, but telling people we're still in it and we're still going to be fighting. We're still fighting through it.
Agreed. Greg?
Supply chain, we've always been shorthanded. In 2019, out of 44 million supply chain professionals in the industry, we still had a 5% unemployment rate, right? Openings, 5% job openings in the industry. And that was when we were at virtually full employment, statistically, full employment throughout the entire country. So talent has always been an issue in this industry. We need people. I think what will start to turn the tide is this identification of supply chain as an intellectual rather than brute force practice, right? It's not just, although I think this is really cool, it's not a guy name in their blue denim shirt stuffing stuff in trailers, right? And driving down the road. It is that. And that's a very cool part of what we do. But it's also, for these younger generations, it's very intellectual, it's very challenging, it's very technological and digitally driven. And it is clearly now identified as that higher purpose that people seek in their job these days. And if you can identify those dynamics for people, you can get a very, very good talent pool. I've seen companies do great jobs with that to help people understand how they are serving humankind, how they are, how they're defeating bad actors, how they are putting necessary goods and medicines and whatnot in other people's hands, and how they're enhancing people's lives, even with just luxury goods. So I think if you present supply chain as that, as what it does, what it delivers, rather than how it operates, I think, we'll start to see the tide turn there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
By the way, now people have heard of this practice, right?
Yeah. Over the past couple of years, that's all that's been in the news too. I think that
right.
that was confusing before. Like, what is supply chain? I think that was so. Now I think people do have that understanding, and you're right. I think there is a large side of purpose, and that would be great for recruiting and talent.
Agreed.
Well, your discussion at a cocktail party doesn't end instantaneously when you say I'm in supply chain anymore. So at least we get that going first time.
It doesn't. Now they just feel sorry for you. They just go, okay.
That's right. Oh, toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, Julia, more supply chain majors and graduates and practices are needed. Absolutely. Really quick, Greg, you touched on truck drivers, and of course we got to love on our truck drivers. An invaluable aspect of global supply chain. We just published today a replay of one of our favorite episodes here. A professional OTR driver, Kelly Lynn McLaughlin.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Kelly Lynn, Greg and Tonya, y'all can check that out at Supply Chain Now, wherever you get your podcast from. Kelly Lynn got into trucking because she was helping her kids in the band. And so, moving instruments, all this stuff around. She got into the logistics side of school bands. And then she found out she loved it, and she kept on taking more steps. And now she's an award-winning over-the-road truck driver, and she has got a wonderful story. So y'all check that out wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, so Greg and Tonya, around the horn, and then again here at number 4, ESG, number 4 on the list.
Gonna get through these 4, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I think I love how you speak to these in terms of, regardless of our listeners' role, there's goodness here. So, Tonya, when it comes to ESG, an acronym that thankfully we've heard a lot about, and we're going to hear a lot more about, more importantly, the outcomes behind it, as Greg touched on.
Yep.
Your thoughts around ESG, Tonya?
Yeah, ESG, everybody it's emerging, it's growing, it's going, everybody has some kind of ESG strategy goals and those kinds of things. And supply chain, though, if you really get, especially scope 3 emissions, those the movement of parts, it is the heart. We are the heart of ESG. And so the decisions that we make, and going back to what Greg said, that purpose, if somebody is really looking to make an impact, it is a field that certainly I look at it roughly, there are requirements and there are all of these things, but there's also opportunity. And you look at, if you, whatever companies, people may be working for, if they can take their products and race to make them more sustainable, not just to meet the requirements or regulations, that you have to do. And we understand that, but how you can just embrace, whether it's, recycling, remanufacturing, any in reducing the carbon footprint, all of those are things that certainly are good for the environment. They're good for cost. Almost 100% of the time, they're good for cost. And it's just something that is emerging. And from a strategy perspective, the impacts that we have in supply chain will be right up at the forefront of how to drive our carbon footprint down. Now, there's supply chain accountability that we all have to work through, and that means going down through your tiers and making sure that making sure that all of those requirements are met which is going to be quite a bit of that's going to create a completely different audit structure and those kinds of things in your sourcing and procurement teams. So there's all these aspects of it. But I do believe that is something that's going to continue to grow from a supply chain perspective.
Yeah, well said, Tonya. Greg, your quick comment.
Very quick. I think ESG is the fourth leg. I like to think of it as the fourth leg of the supply chain stool: speed, cost, reliability, and ethics. All of those things represent risks in your supply chain. And this final one, wait, which end of the hand was I on? Whatever end of the hand. Ethics. Right? Ethics are human rights, right? They are environmental. They are laws and compliance, all of those things that we talk about so frequently. And I think if we view all of those things in a risk balancing perspective, with cost only being one of those risks, not the primary risk that we think about, with quality being part of reliability and things like that, then I think you build a better supply chain by having four legs or columns or pillars, whatever you want to call them,
Right.
than just three. And to me, that's the way I'm approaching supply chain. We talk a lot about my unfinished business with the supply chain. That is my approach, is to add ESG as one of the core pillars of the supply chain.
Love it. All right. So really quick, and to our production team, thanks for all the help. We're going to wrap with Tonya with us. We're not going to
she only gets one swoosh. Sorry, Tonya. We ran a little bit late. So
that's right.
You got to watch it make the sausage at the end.
Oh, okay.
Really quick, Abdel Halim, recent methods like DDMRP try to start their planning model with a forecast, but afterwards, it's all demand driven. He says there, Dr. Rhonda, assumptions can certainly be helpful. Greg, versus being relatively focused all the time, this type of thinking certainly helps us build our capacity to be resilient, which is the first item on the list that we talked about here today. Thank you for that, Dr. Rhonda. I'm going to circle back on Ron's comment here in a second, but Josh says, if you go off the statement, any publicity is good publicity. The supply chain field has had insane amounts of coverage for the past 3 years. Never underestimate people's curiosity to Google things they repeatedly hear or see in the news. Excellent point there. And finally, Ron, great to see you here again today from the metropolis of Aiken, South Carolina. So Ron says, and this kind of goes back, in my mind, leads to the burnout factor that Ton, you were talking about earlier. He says, is there a higher supply chain turnover rate because people are jumping to different companies for promotion, better pay opportunities, or maybe because the org charts in most companies for supply chain professionals is limited? There's some great questions there. Let's wrap.
As a rule, probably response. So. Yeah. Go ahead, Tonya.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Any thoughts on that question?
Oh, yeah. So the first part, I think there's certainly some turnover with people pursuing other opportunities. And on the org chart situation, I think, I think we all have to make opportunities for people. And right. Regardless of what the, historic org chart has been, I can't remember who said it, is supply chain has been in the news for the last 3 years or whatever it is. So I think there's there's recognition and appreciation that, we do have to continue to grow that organization wherever it sits in your company. So I think historically, there may have been a different view, but going forward, I think we all have to make our own opportunities, and certainly we have to do what we have to do to keep key and critical people.
Yeah, well said, Tonya. We're going to leave it there here today. We're already at the top of the hour, the bottom of the hour. I always get that wrong. It's 1 o'clock Eastern time is what it is. So Greg and Tonya, love our conversation here today. I tell you, Tonya, I really enjoy your take, not just on what's going on at Lexmark and some unique aspects of organization that you took us through, to some of your the 4 trends and to hear your take on them, as well as just having a chance to have this conversation live and have all the folks that were listened in and were offering their take a chance to interact with you live here on Supply Chain Now. So Tonya Jackson with Lexmark, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Can you
Scott
come back
and Greg.
sometime, Tonya?
Sure, happy to come back.
We'll bring the peach cobbler and ice cream, Tonya.
And ice cream with crumble.
Yes.
Yeah, crumbly top, Scott. Come on.
Well, hey, one final question for Tonya. For folks to connect with you, for folks to learn more about Lexmark, folks, I imagine you are doing a bunch of hiring. Regardless, how can folks learn more?
Yeah, so you can certainly reach out to me, and you can put my information in the group chat at Tonya.Jackson@lexmark.com. But also please check out our website, lexmark.com, where we are hiring. So love to have you.
Wonderful. Well, Greg, I don't know about you, but I would love to have worked for a Tonya Jackson in my journey, huh?
I was going to say, if I didn't have a job now, I would be applying. Yeah, heck yeah.
Well,
come to sunny Kentucky, or
that's right.
Actually anywhere around the world. Actually, the headquarters in Kentucky.
Oh, really?
We are hiring all over the world.
Remote? Oh, awesome.
Well, hey, big thanks.
We'll talk online.
That's right. Big thanks to Tonya Jackson and really the whole Lexmark team for helping us make today's conversation happen. Tonya, we'll have you back soon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks,
Greg. Big thanks to you. Hey, big thanks to all the folks that showed up in the comments. Ron and Rhonda and Julia and Josh and Andy, you name it, all the folks. Thank y'all for contributing here today. Whatever you do, on behalf of our entire Supply Chain Now team, Scott Luton and Greg White, hey, we're challenging you to be like Tonya Jackson. Do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And with that said, we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Amen.
Thank you.